brings people into the country illegally. That is amazing. Human trafficker. You're a human
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy. ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
To ATM Blowout, the syndicated live program of the network. Our job here is really simple, but very crucial, because we'll hold conversation on special interest topics to bring you news, events, and stories through correspondent reports, expert opinions, and stakeholders' analysis. Our first point of call on the show today is on Anchor's Chat, where Education Minister explains Nigeria's educational problems. And then from there, we'll get on to Abia State, where police confirm murder of Labour Party chieftain Zachary Maduka. And from there on, we'll move to issue security. Defense chief declares war against insurgency. We'll come back to food matters. A committee suggests formation of Ministry of Livestock. Minister inaugurates task force to control diphtheria outbreak nationwide. And then governance, Garba Shehu alerts President Tinubu on pretenders around him. And the diaspora group reinstates faith in Supreme Court's judgment. And there's several issues around Mohbad this morning. We'll look at the petition that he made against Sam Larry that has resurfaced online. And an entertainment still, police assures a diligent investigation into Mohbad's death. And then still on Mohbad's death, Elegu Shibro, your family distances from Sam Larry. All right, we have the State Director, National Orientation Agency for Rivers State. That's Barrister Ayotamana Young. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, let's have a conversation around the education system. There are one or two things you and I need to talk about after we listen to what the minister's explanation is about this morning. We'll be back to you after the break.
Are you a broadcaster, content creator, content distributor, or a media practitioner seeking opportunities to amplify your creativity and expand your network? Then join us at the 13th edition of Africast. Africast 2023 offers participants the opportunity to experience 3 days of world-class exposition through plenaries, streamings, master classes, and workshops showcasing the very best in creativity and technological advancements in the global broadcast and media ecosystem. Theme: broadcast content, synergy, finance, and market. Date: Tuesday the 24th of October to Thursday the 26th of October 2023. Venue: Marriott Hotel, Ikeja, Lagos, Nigeria. For more inquiries, visit www.africast.com.ng. NBC, your right to quality broadcasting.
Attention broadcasters, independent producers, and content streamers. This is your chance to buy or sell quality content. At Africast 2023, the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, will be launching the very first ever Nigerian TV and film content hub. Join us from the 24th to the 26th of October at the Marriott Hotel Ikeja, Lagos, and be part of a game-changing experience. Content Hub is your destination for content acquisitions, aggregation, licensing, and distribution of both local and international programs across for broadcasters in Nigeria. For more inquiries, visit www.africast.com.ng. Content Hub, your easy and affordable access to quality and affordable content. Don't miss out. The Africast Content Hub, brought to you by the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, in collaboration with NIFS.
All right, welcome back to ATM Blowout. Now let's have Anchor's chat. Education, the federal government says the country's higher education is characterized with inadequate funding, corruption strike, brain drain, poor research, weak governance, and insecurity. The Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, has advocated the total overhauling of the higher education system to make the universities and other tertiary institutions at par with others around the globe. He made the observation in Abuja while declaring open the 8th edition of the Lipsense Open Science Symposium organized by the Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities in partnership with the West and Central African Research Education Network and partners. The minister, represented by the Director of University Education in the ministry, Rakia Ileasu, assured that the ministry was committed to fostering the role of science through partnership from shared knowledge. All right. For days now, I've been around the University of Port Harcourt, and for different reasons, by the way. One of the things that I've come to, it just dawned on me, maybe I've known about this, maybe it's just a conscious reality that came to my mind, maybe it became clearer that there is a major aspect of our educational system, the university education particularly, that is lacking. I mean, is any wonder that the one who couldn't go to university, who had to stop after secondary school to go learn a trade, they end up doing so well, even before their parents who went to university finished, and then, pick up their life, and those who were able to do well in secondary school. I used to tell people that I once had an exclusive interview with Tufe CDB, and one of the things I learned from him was that the true meaning of education. Usually we'll think it's about going to university, acquiring all the degrees we can afford within the university, 4 walls of the university. But this celebrity or singer made me understand that education is actually basically the ability to read, write, plus exposure. What you're exposed to. And then he began to buttress that if you're exposed to, let's say, the ability to design this cup, and you're able to do it exceptionally well, you're able to travel, see what is obtainable in other places, that you're actually more educated sometimes more than the person who sat down to study, let's say, carpentry in the university, for instance. All of those courses will pick up. Because at the end of the day, the person comes out and starts to learn how to manufacture that which you have learned. I think if you look at you immediately talked about overhauling our university tertiary education. I think that conversation is long overdue. I think at this point, that conversation should be at the point where we all come down to the drawing table and begin to talk about this for real, like a total overhaul in actual sense, not in overhaul of the courses. For instance, if you look at some of the courses we offer in our universities, and then you ask yourself, how many of these people who graduate from different disciplines in each university come out and actually have what it takes to practice in the field that they have graduated from that discipline? And I think it's a big error that in 2023, with what is going on in this country right now, that it's not about It's not even about how much funding that is put in education right now, because even if you put all the funding that they require right now, they're still not going to be changed, except the paradigm of our education culture or tradition, if you may, changes. And here is what I said that dawned on me. Several young persons leave university without being skilled in the field that they have studied. You have a young woman who is in her third year of mass communication study, for instance, and then she is not even certain what certain issues, what's practically speaking, what certain things should be, and she has just about 1 year to leave. You have someone who finished, who studied mass communication. I'm using my industry, for instance, and then she knows next to nothing when it comes to the broadcast media, when it comes to news writing, news editing. So you see, there is so much error in our education system that I honestly feel that we need to check. And these days, as soon as a child graduates, they want to go into do their PGD or their masters or get on to acquire all of these degree, every degree available. But nobody is really paying attention on getting the actual practical aspects of that. That is the business aspect of what we are doing, what we are studying in school. This is why some persons may be highly educated, but when it comes to practically implementing that which they have studied, it becomes a problem. Because they know theoretically the definition of every term in media, for instance, but when it comes to practically putting it into use, providing the value that is commensurate with that discipline or that profession, you find them lacking totally. And now, even when they finally get a training, we always ignore to train people on the business aspect of that profession, which is a big error in the courses we offer in several Nigerian universities, at least to the best of my knowledge. Because if you study mass communication for 4 years, what is the essence of reading? If at some time you have them providing courses that are not even relevant to someone, for instance, that wants to go into broadcast media. You have courses, materials that are not necessary for you. And you spend 4 years reading all of this, studying all of this material, just to write exam and pass exam inside the university so you can be given a degree. But when you have that degree and you cannot be relevant in that field, isn't it useless? I mean, come on. So I think we all need to begin to really ask ourselves, this thing we do, churning out this number of people in the name of graduating people from different disciplines from the Nigerian universities, both private and otherwise, what are we doing to them? How many, even those who went to private universities, how many of them who studied mass communication can come out to say that they are broadcasters? So I mean, what's the point of having to study all of these materials? Every year there are different things, but the ones that are relevant to the course of study or not, they just push in everything. Why don't you begin to I know that some of the GS courses for the undergraduate studies, for instance, they could have entrepreneur this, but all of those things are just mere rhetorics because they really mean nothing, because for them it's just about writing those courses, reading it, understanding what they can at that point and passing the exam. For instance, how many people understand what it means to balance the accounting sheet when it comes to running a business, for instance? How many people understand what it means to be an independent producer from the broadcast media world? Assuming you don't have opportunity to get employed, or you're not employable based on one or two things, understand that this is how to make money from the industry that I have finished from. How many people understand that? If you study electrical electronics, for instance, or mechanical engineering or petroleum engineering, for instance, all of those courses, do you even understand that? How many of them know how to start up something on their own, or how to pair with their team, and then begin to apply what they have learned in school? I honestly think that if this overhauling of Nigeria's educational system is something that we're going to talk about, deal with, it simply means that we need to come back to the fore and begin to ask ourselves, what are we doing as a nation? Take, for instance, can we begin to think about, for instance, let's say you study mass communication, using my field I'm more familiar with. I say, okay, you do all of the, like, for instance, all the materials that the person needs for the 4 years to read. Okay, for instance, you pass the exam, you pass the jam, you come in for that. Okay, can we have counselors? You begin to interview these people who are going into this department, for instance, first of all, understand if this is really where they are meant to function, if they understand what they are going in for. Otherwise, the school should have the authority to revert these people into different fields. Because what is the point of putting you see someone who studied law, spent all of that time, went to law school, and they say, okay, I just did it for my dad because he wants me to be a lawyer. Or I just finished studying medicine, finished all of that. I just did it for my dad or my mom because she's a doctor, she wants me to be a doctor. This is not really what I want. And before long, they dump the certificate. The point is that the places where they're supposed to be relevant to themselves, through themselves, for the society, we have taken it away from them because there is a parent who wants to determine how far that child will go. I think we need to begin to have that conversation. This pressure on some children to be what their parents are, when in actual sense, that is not even where their strength lies. This university should be able to help to assess how they can navigate that. That is also, of course, it's going to be more human capital intensive, but I mean, if we can get it right by having all of those lecturers, at least the first 3 months of their school year, having been able to do that, so you can revert people to different departments that they fit in, for instance, so they can excel. Okay, that's on one side. Or at least after the first year, something has to be done to ensure that if my strength is not in broadcast media, for instance, and my strength is in psychology, maybe counseling, I should be allowed to do that. You have several kids who travel abroad to school, and after 1 year, they call their parents and say, Mom, Dad, okay, I know you think I'm studying this, but the school, my counselor said A, B, C, D, and they have to divert to go to study something, and they come out and they are doing well. I know 2 young ladies, for instance, who are close to me, who ended up this way, and they are happy, they are doing well. Now, that's on one side. I mean, for instance, your child may be someone who wants to study medicine and all of that, and they get abroad, you send them abroad, or you send them to school, and the school system discovered that they are better off as psychologists based on their strengths and their areas of interest after their career counseling, for instance. And, they are asked to get into that field, and they do so well. But that's a big industry, by the way, but we don't understand that clinical psychology, for instance, is a big money, maybe because it's not an area that Nigeria really pay attention at. But that's by the way. And then you look at the other side where you have something like, from there you now get on to say, okay, put these people in their schools and then have them release the materials they need for the first 2 years that it has to do with reading. And then people should be able to say, okay, set up times for exam quarterly or something, and then people should go and write this exam when they are ready. It's not even about too much classwork teaching, if you may. At the end of the day, when people write this exam when they are ready, but make sure that in that 2 years, it is compulsory that you would have finished your coursework and all the exams there is. And then after that one, the 3rd year should now be used for in proper practical training where you invite professionals. So that what they do for that coursework is basically trainings. So for that 3rd year, and then for the 4th year, you have their final year exam, you have put them to begin to lecture, to see them implement what they have taught them in others. That should not become a determinant on who should graduate from a discipline in a university. So you know that when you're graduating someone, you're providing a certificate, you're proud to say that this person has done well and this person is going to do well. But in a situation where, we just sit back and we say, okay, everybody, this person got 3.9 aggregate whatever. This person got this and this person got this. And at the end of the day, you graduate these people and there is nothing to show for it. It becomes too much of an embarrassment. I can tell you for free, in the industry where I am, there are several young persons who come here in the name of serving as a youth NYC members, core members, and at the end of the day, discover that they don't know the basics of what they should even know. And these people are done with school, certificates provided. Honestly, we need to do better so that when people leave the university and they are, first 2 years, theoretical aspects of whatever you need to do, the course materials are provided, training classes are going on, lecturers, you attend classes, and then apply to write your exam. Every quarter, exams are written. If you're not ready, but before you finish, you must finish those exams. Yeah, some schools do that right now, but, get that to be a conscious thing. But then the 3rd year, bring in professionals in given field. Do not begin to teach the practical aspects of that, including not just the practical aspects of that course that you are studying, but the business aspect of that field. A lot of people set up businesses and fail, not because their ideas are not valid, but because there's so much ignorance on the business aspect of courses that people study in the university. I was having a conversation with a colleague, and then he's a fantastic accountant from his resume. And I said to him, have you ever thought of, putting into practice basic accounting principles that can help small and medium enterprises to begin to manage their accounting without the rigor of, going through all of that? There are apps that's been developed on all of this. We can begin to maximize this. So the idea of saying someone studied accounting, for instance, until they go to it's ICANN, right? Okay, so until they get on them, they may not be called perfect. I think we need to check all of these things and begin to build the human capital investors that will actually run this country. It's not enough that every 4 years, every year, people were churning out so-called graduates, but the value that we are bringing forth is not commensurate with what should be in a country that desires to be developed. And if we're not able to put all of this together, so what is the essence of this turning out this number of graduates, and at the end of the day, is really nothing to write to them? But I don't have people say, oh, if we go abroad, we do well. Do we all really do well when we go abroad? Yes, several persons end up doing well because, you've been through the grinders anyway. So if you find some comfort, you're going to excel. No doubt about that. But let's begin to rethink the university education. It's not about saying it's polytechnic, no, vocational, no. This is not about, I'm talking about university education, 2 years per classwork. Just a suggestion, by the way, the third year, practical aspects of it, get in professionals in the field, practicing professionals in the field, to come and educate them on the practical aspect of it, see them pass that as an actual exam that is even more important than passing the theoretical aspect of it. And then teach them the business aspects of that discipline. And then in the fourth year, get them to now begin to take on coursework for those who are in the first year. Somehow, begin to show show the school that so when we say that we have graduated someone, you are an actual graduate, not just someone who just sits down and have a certificate you wave around. Everybody sees you have a certificate, but what is the word of all of that? Anyway, that's what we can do on Amicus Chat. So we'll be back to you after the break. All right, thank you for joining us again on the ATN Blowout. I'd like to welcome Barrister Ayo Tamuna Young. Good to have you on ATN Blowout.
Glad to be here.
Thank God it's Friday. All right, let's get started from Abia State. The Abia State Police has confirmed the death of Mr. Zachary Maduka, a campaign director of the Labour Party in the 2023 elections in Utsuru, Isukwata local government area of the state. Mr. Maduka is a 70-year-old native of Ezekiel Abuba village who was beheaded by yet-to-be-identified men on Wednesday night. The police public relations officer in the state, ASP Maureen Choma Chinaka, confirmed the incident in a statement made available to our correspondent on Thursday. He pointed out that investigations were currently ongoing to unravel those behind the dastardly act. The statement said Mr. Maduka was violently attacked, shot, and beheaded by unidentified assailants while he was at a drinking joint in Amalechi, Abuba community. Upon receiving this distressing information, a joint team comprising police and army personnel were swiftly dispatched to the scene. Tragically, they recovered Mr. Maduka's lifeless body. Photographic evidence was captured at the scene, and the deceased remains were promptly evacuated and deposited at Maris Mortuary, Utsuru. Maduka was the home branch chairman of Utsuru Development Union. It was gathered that the assailants, numbering about 10, wielded pump-action guns, cutlasses, and several other weapons, had shot him dead at a drinking joint in Amalechi, Abuba community. The victim was reportedly dragged on the floor before he was finally beheaded and his head taken away by his killers. Good that you're the one on the show this morning, Barrister Ayo Tamuna. This is like reading about Ahoda DPO, Bako Anbashim. What do you think is going on? Are you sure that we are still here with people who have soul in them? Are you sure that the people we're dealing with are still, like, we still have normal humans? What do you think is, like, at what point, how do you explain shooting at someone and then caught dragging the person? Like, do you have a soul in you to actually do this? I don't know. What do you think is going on, sir?
Obviously, crime appears to be fighting back. And if you had looked at the scorecard of the new National Security Advisor, you will see that they have actually gained some mileage in terms of handling security across the country. Very beautiful reports about mileage that has been gained. But I think we need to focus more, not beating ourselves to the banditry issues, limiting ourselves to herders issues, but also coming down this way. You know, there are different dimensions to these criminal activities. It's different up there and also different here. Looking at Maduka's story, you will see that there are so many angles that are being brought to it. One is a party chief. At another end, he's also the chairman of a community.
Union, yeah.
Yes, community union. So the police are already investigating it, and we do hope that all these angles will be at. 10 people coming into a community joint, there's no way one of those persons will not be identified, except where they are hired killers. And to look at the fact that this is a 70-year-old man, that life is just being taken away from. It sends some very wrong signals. You know, our values, just like you mentioned, our respect for the dignity of the human person has been greatly compromised. You also mentioned the issue of Bako Anbasin. That's a very renowned policeman, a noble cop by all definition.
Yeah.
In fact, looking at this antecedents in Obebe Mindoni before he went to Kana, Wild Kana, and even had his footmarks up till now in Kana. and going to meet his deaths. You know, it's quite unfortunate, and we not only sympathize with the police, but particularly with his family at this great loss.
Yeah, but the concern here is these are grassroots crimes. These are grassroots heinous murders. It doesn't, listen, sir, beheading someone doesn't happen in 2-3 minutes. No matter how sharp the machete or cutlass may be, or whatever weapon they are using. So from the shooting to people escaping to the point where they began to cut, just like in SP Anbashim's case, from cutting to making a video of him and singing and dancing, today we've caught you, and all of that, one begins to wonder, are we failing with when it comes to policing where it actually matters? If are these communities that used to be safe, that people could say, okay, we're going home to rest for the weekend. If we have turned it into a place where people now can imagine hearing being called that your father has been murdered just for going to sit down in a joint to take a bottle of drink, is it safe to begin to ask what it should be the next step? Because if our communities are not safe, what then is the safety?
Well, that's why this is where the issue of community policing and neighborhood watch, you know, this is where it plays out. But you can't also rule out the complicity of some of these grassroots that, like you have mentioned now. If you look at the Bako Angbashin's video, you will see that it took some time.
Yes.
And not just that, there was every sign that such things could happen. In fact, this morning I just read from one of the clips that he was made to believe that some persons in that community were ready to surrender their arms and,
that's the angle,
and embrace amnesty.
That's the angle that the state police commissioner brought forth, that he was deceived. And then a lot of civil society people are not really finding that line of thoughts. I mean, how much power does he have to go negotiate anyway?
And he didn't go on that operation alone. He didn't go on that operation alone. He went with a team of police persons. At the end of the day, he was the target, and every other person went home free.
You explain that.
These are the issues, but like I want to rest the case there that the police is investigating with all the expertise that they have. But my concern actually is the involvement of community leaders. Community leaders, part of their role is to protect their communities, to make their communities safe. And then when you find out that our communities are they have virtually been overtaken by some of these cultists, by some of these criminals, then you begin to ask, what is the role of the community leader? You know, by operations of the local government areas, there's usually an amount that is reserved for our community leaders, community gatekeepers, our chiefs and traditional rulers. So we expect that, you know, to whom much is given, much is expected. Money is not just being given to them from the coffers of the local government for nothing. We expect that they should be able to protect lives and property in the community, put in place structures, CDCs and so on, make these structures to work and free our communities of criminal elements.
All right.
So it's very challenging.
All right, still speaking on the issue around security, Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa says the military will continue to go after all adversaries of the country until they surrender or are totally eliminated. Musa gave the assurance in Jaji, Kaduna State, while addressing participants of Senior Course 46 of the Armed Forces Command and Staff College. Speaking specifically on the issue of banditry in the Northwest, Musa said that the military would take them all out in a matter of time and assured Nigerians that the current challenges of insecurity are surmountable, while restating the armed forces' readiness and willingness to achieve success as a team. He also said that his leadership would be people-centered and based on synergy amongst the armed forces to address the challenges of insecurity in Nigeria, adding that in the course of addressing the challenges of insecurity in the country, the troops must protect the rights of individuals, communities, and citizens while working as a team. Earlier in his address, the commandant of the Hassan Al-Haji charged the graduating officers to contribute their expertise to the growth of the nation. Here is the report.
Everybody has a role to play, and everybody must be seen to play that role. The tendency normally is for junior officers to always think that the other people don't matter. It doesn't start and end in chief. You have more of the soldiers, ratings, and airmen than the officers. For the infantry in a platoon, you have 1 officer and 37 soldiers. They are more than you. Where you have a good commander who takes time and looks after his men, you will see the performance will be positive. When you get a greedy commander who only thinks about himself, you will see the unit will not perform. So leadership, your ability to move your men, to care for them. Once they trust that you are there for them, they will be there for you. First one happening between the armed forces, that must be eliminated totally. With other agencies, we must remember that we're all Nigerians. This is our country. Everybody has a role to play, so nobody is above the other.
From time to time, our sovereignty has been tested. But even those who have tested our sovereignty have not proffered a better solution than the status quo. Our economy has been a source of weakness. But thankfully, our Commander-in-Chief has taken the right steps to take us off the trajectory to failure. However, our military has been steadfast. It is the one element of Nigeria that has worked. Despite the setbacks, despite some of the problems we've had, our military has been there for this country.
Okay, let's talk about this war against insurgency. Will it ever end?
That's a technical question to respond to. First, let me say that what the Chief of Defense Staff, Era Musa, has done, I think it's apt. He has to rebuild public confidence in the armed forces. It's also boosting the morale of the soldiers, and as much as possible, also bringing its mission statements to bear. So these are things that are very normal in a gathering like that, in a graduation program like that. These are things that are very normal. But as to the question whether insurgency will ever end, it's a continuous thing. There's nobody that can clearly say or state that this is when this insurgency will end. I just mentioned to you that looking at the scorecard in the last 3 months of the current NSA, they looked at the entire scorecard, and you see that he's also trying to rejig the security system. There appears to be a paradigm shift of trying to see that internal security is being handled by the police and other security agencies, while the military concentrates on the external issues that have to do with external aggression, for which I believe that issues like banditry, which are quite complex, which border on terrorism and related offenses, is being handled by the military. So I see a lot of professionalism, but they have started walking the talk, but they need to do more.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that question is if you're saying you're going to declare war against insurgency, if you're saying you're going to, like what you talked about the NSA, trying to ensure that the police and the relevant security agencies who are tasked with internal security are actually doing their job. If that is how we're looking at it, that's safe, that's fair. However, let's look at it from another angle, which is, how then do you explain the fact that when you talk about security, what are the things that are fueling the insecurity in the northern part of Nigeria, for instance? Have we checked the poverty index? What can we do about it? How are the people who own the natives of this land falling prey to being used by insurgents? What is it that is being used against them that makes it difficult for them to say no to this? How much insurgency are you going to fight if you've not begun to look at the issue of poor education, exposure, poverty, and all of the factors that has fueled, that made it possible for anybody to use religion, for instance, to hoodwink the vulnerable? If all of these factors are not critically being discussed and looked at, how much of this war against insurgency is going to be a reality? We've been on it for quite some time.
I think they are looking at, if we say that they are not looking at all these factors, it will look as if we don't appreciate. These are very complex. I know that there's a mix of both kinetic and non-kinetic strategy. Non-kinetic in the sense that they are looking at soft power, looking at soft power, seeing how they can integrate the community intelligence into the security architecture of the country. All that has been on the drawing board and even been implemented. So for me, these things have taken quite some time to build. So we are talking about the period between 2009 and even earlier.
Earlier, yes.
Yes, and even earlier, between that period and now. But what I also believe is that we have to take some more practical steps, which they are doing now. You can see that at any point in time, the president last week also met with security chiefs, trying to make sure that everybody is on the same page, and that there is a needed synergy between these security organizations, talking about the armed forces, that there's a synergy between them. Now, just like you mentioned, there are different aspects to this security matter. If you, in some cases, you will even wonder if we are getting it correct. For instance, if you go to Niger State, there's a key terrorist in Niger State currently that is laying claim. In fact, so many communities are even surrendering their rights.
Yes.
Their rights to him. Meanwhile, we have governments that is an elected government in place, and yet this particular terrorist, well known in Niger State, is laying claim to territories, and people are surrendering their rights, privileges, and everything to him. Just a few days back, we are told that he has authorized the opening of some markets and even collecting taxes, giving waivers and everything. So these are some of the areas.
These things are not new.
Yes.
That's why I said, with the bandits using the Achilles heels, or if you may, or the vulnerability of these people, poverty, ignorance when it comes to even their own religion and what have you, and fear, basically, to hoodwink them into you. For instance, how can a whole community fall to the hand of the bandits? And then you determine when they will come to the market, when they will not come to the market. And these are governed territories, because there is no state in this country that doesn't have a governor or an LGA chairman or what have you. So if all of these factors that makes the people vulnerable to this are not being looked at, how much of this war against insurgency can we really win?
Well, the poverty is the largest tribe in this country. When you begin to talk about poverty and you look at the areas where banditry has gained ground, ordinarily you would think that it is not happening, in other parts. What is happening there? Perhaps it's reported, and we are getting to know about the complex nature of it. But I don't see it as being too different from what we also have here. If you look at what happened in Ahoda East, you will notice that in Ahoda East, you will notice that in Ahoda East, that the people have virtually surrendered. The people have virtually surrendered to some of, call them cultists, some of these criminal elements.
Yes.
And you have traditional institutions working, operating side by side with these people. So it's almost the same character that we have seen, you know, nationwide. But like you mentioned, is it possible for us to look at the remote causes?
Yes.
For instance, the issue of poverty that you have mentioned. For some of
proliferation of arms,
yes,
again.
For some of us, we are not too inclined to saying that it is poverty that because you are poor, you have to take the life of another person. Because you are poor, you have to take into crime. Yes, there are quite a lot of things to do. There are a lot of opportunities that are around. You just need to look around, think outside the box. Some of these things are actually fueled by greed.
Yeah.
Some of these things are actually fueled by greed. Some of them are actually the boys or sponsored by, you know, those that are in authority and over time have been overwhelmed. You know, you use them for issues like election. You use them to fight your opponents. You use them at one point or the other. And at the end of the day, you are not able to get these arms back from them. And somebody who has arms, you know, is psychologically is propelled to using, of course, being an idle hand and being an idle mind. He will look for what he has at that point in time is the gun. And psychologically, he will feel that with this gun, that he could overpower any obstacle, you know, to getting what he needs to have. So we need to look at it in that light. But definitely, government has to put in place certain things that will create the enabling environment for the private sector to drive the economy.
I agree.
And make sure that jobs are available for some of these people that are prone to these crimes.
All right, thank you. So the National Livestock Reforms Committee has recommended the establishment of Ministry of Livestock that will supervise the issues of farmers' herders clashes in the country. The committee, which submitted its recommendation on the reformation of livestock business in the country to President Bola Tinubu at the Presidential Villa Abuja on Thursday, noted that there are 4 types of herdsmanship in the country, according to the leader of the delegation and national chairman of the All Progressive Congress and the NLC, Abdullahi Ganduje. There are herders that settle at home. There are the ones who are Nigerians that move from the different parts of the country to another. There are herdsmen that come from neighboring West African countries, as well as the ones that have settled among certain ethnic nationalities that have become indigenous of the area. Ganduje said, "It is gratifying to lead this team of patriotic Nigerians and experts in various fields of human endeavor before Mr. President to present the report of the National Conference on Livestock Reforms." The report grew out of the urgent need to reform and develop the livestock industry and to provide solutions to the age-long conflict between herders and farmers in Nigeria. The low productivity of the sector has made Nigeria an import-dependent economy, draining scarce foreign reserves used for importing dairy, meat, and other livestock products. Similarly, the conflict is resulting in killings of citizens and loss of livelihoods, further affecting peaceful coexistence in the country. He said, with increasing populations, ecological changes such as soil erosion and degradation of grazing areas and changing climate, adopting innovative crops and livestock production practices is no longer luxury but an essential investment that this people-centered administration under your leadership needs to vigorously pursue. Ganduje said there have been repeated attempts to develop the livestock industry with varying levels of failures and successes. He said the adoption of improved production practices that will increase productivity and help the cattle owners to permanently settle have been abysmal due to many factors such as inadequate planning and funding of programs, weak extension services, as well as other cultural, economic, and technological barriers. According to Ganduje, the persistence of these problems has allowed unhealthy competition, acrimony to grow among farmers and herders, resulting in violent conflicts across the country. So he said if it is these and other related experiences that this committee reviewed and analyzed, and while also drawing from varied experiences across the world to come out with practical recommendations, the committee that we prepared this report is made up of eminent Nigerians under the chairmanship of Professor Tahiru Jaga, with members from the organized private sector, academia, practicing pastoralists and farmers, representatives of farming and pastoralist communities, civil society organizations, and specialists in various fields of livestock. The works assiduously to organize a national conference on 13th and 14th February 2023, with about 500 participants, including traditional rulers, technocrats, bureaucrats, practitioners, farmers and pastoralist organizations, civil society organizations, and several others. Well, the APC national chairman told President Tinubu that the report submitted to him has the antidote to the problems of the livestock industry. It addresses the key reforms and presents various development options needed for the sustainable development of the sector. Okay, I was reading this. I was hoping that some of the key factors that they may have listed that would help to mitigate this challenge of herders this, farmers this, and what have you could have been. If you are to hazard a guess, what do you think these committees on livestock could have reached, and what agreement could they have reached? If you were to have hazard a guess.
Well, let me just put it this way, that first and foremost, the key and principal recommendation that we should have a Ministry of Livestock, I disagree with it. Head on. From a personal viewpoint, I disagree with it. Whether I call it livestock, it is part of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. And at best, we could have a directorate, a full directorate in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture that should be in charge of this. In fact, reading through it now, it reminds me of the fact that it even contradicts some of the position of Mr. President when he traveled very recently and met with some Nigerians in diaspora in one of the countries that he went to, he visited. I think that should be India. And he was very...
for the G20 summit.
Yes, he was very clear about it. He said that we are still... A summary, let me paraphrase that ordinarily by now that we ought to have gone beyond the stage. In fact, he even bemoaned the fact that veterinary medical doctors, are not being effectively used. In fact, they are underutilized. They are underutilized nationwide, and we are not getting the best. The times when we used to have pastoralists moving around, in this report they have identified 4 different types. The ones that are stationed, the ones that are moving, the ones that are coming from outside the country. Of course, pastoralists the activities have been on for a very long time. But what we are saying is that, look, we need to look at this as more of business, instead of people moving from one part of the country to the other, causing herders, farmers clash, because as they move, they destroy crops of farmers. We have gone beyond that. I think where we are now is that we should actually have places. We should actually have places for them, camps for them. Farms where they can actually sit down, develop their livestock, get the byproducts, dairies and so on from them, and then sell, so that it's more commercialized. And we can be able to quantify exactly how much we'll get from them. And if it means in terms of taxation, we know that we also do that and get the best, for the country. Times when we talked about migrant farmers, migrant fishermen, all those programs we are basically to address the issues of pastoralists and fishermen. But I think that we have gone beyond that stage now. We need to have them in places. When Ganduje was governor, Ganduje had actually pledged that the Kano state government, will provide places where they can go about their activities, places where they can cultivate or whatever, where they can breed this livestock. So we need to do that.
All right, thank you so much. So the coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, has constituted an emergency task force to curb the diphtheria outbreak in the country. This was disclosed on Thursday in a press statement signed by Party Special Assistant on Media and External Relations, Tashi Kalman Hala. The task force is to be co-chaired by the Executive Director of National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shuaibu, and the Director General of the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa. Other members of the task force include the Director of Public Health, Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Anyike Chukuma, representing 30 from the World Health Organization, United Nations Children's Fund, Federal Ministry of Information, and the Northern Traditional Leaders Committee on Primary Health Care Delivery. Diphtheria is a highly contagious vaccine-preventable disease caused mainly by the bacterium Corynebacterium diphtheria, which can be fatal in 5 to 10% of cases with a high mortality rate in young children. Well, the World Health Organization's most recent risk assessment of the diphtheria outbreak in Nigeria has maintained the risk as high at the national level and low at the regional and global levels. The minister said the task force is to operate in an emergency mode in order to forestall further spread to other states and bring succor to the populace. All right. But the minister was quoted as saying there should be massive mobilization and sensitization. This is where the NTLC is critical. He said our people should be aware of the disease, the dangers inherent in and what they need to do. We must mount a rapid response as our children are returning to school. I am also glad that the ED of the NPHCDA has shelved his trip to the United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York to lead the rapid response team to Kano, the epicenter of the crisis. Now, as it is right now, there's been a diphtheria has been dictated in 14 states with the Kano as the epicenter. We understand diphtheria. When this came out sometime late last year or early this year, talked about the sore on the sock skin of bovines, cow, sheep, what have you. And Nigeria is a very wonderful country because our consumption of what we call pomo or kanda, which is the hides of these bovines, became a major concern. At that point, a lot of people didn't really take it seriously. But where we are right now, you seated here as a National Orientation Agency State Director, how much campaign do you think have gone on and how involved are you with this team that would be carrying out this campaign over the outbreak nationwide?
In fact, thank you for even doing your research on what could be the causal factors of
diphtheria. Yes, please.
Because looking at the reports, I was beginning to ask that what are all these jaw-breaking concepts when they talked about the vaccine-treated disease and so on. When you look at it, what you see first is very technical concepts.
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to my mind is in public communication, especially by some of our specialized institutions, is there no way they can actually look for better, understandable terms so that the public can be carried along? When you are reading the reports, actually, I was wondering, what is this diphtheria and what are the causal features so that it will be available to every person?
The basic knowledge of it.
So, but you can see that about 14 states are affected, and that for now, Rivers is not there. But I should definitely think that most of these diseases, just as you saw there, is between the primary healthcare development, the primary healthcare development board at the national level, or agency at the national level. In the state here, we have a board, and I'm sure that they are also monitoring the situation, and they're putting in place. Currently, there are some seminars that are ongoing. There are some seminars that are ongoing. I know that in terms of dealing with preventable diseases, even yesterday there was one organized by the Primary Healthcare Development Board at the Port Harcourt City Council. So the National Orientation Agency officers were there, and they will report back this morning because the seminar dragged to late in the evening yesterday. They'll report back this morning so that we are collaborating with them, and as soon as we get the green lights, we have a very robust collaboration. As soon as we get the green lights, we'll go all out. Yes,
okay, now, about last month or thereabout, the Federal Ministry also came up with the fact that they're going to go about nationwide to inject bovines across Nigeria in order to prevent this disease from spreading. And one of the things we also said, what is the ministry doing about the rate of consumption of hides in this country, what we call kanda or momom? Now, if we're talking about these animals, be this disease, and that it being fatal, we look at 5 to 10 cases, like they said, and that this has to do with the skin of these cow, sheep, what have you, that we highly consume in this country. What are they doing about the campaign against the consumption of hides, for instance? We don't know about that. Again, what is interesting, we don't know how far they have gone with that campaign for the vaccine, injecting bovines across the country, and we don't know how successful that is. Now, one of the things that came out of this report is that of the UNICEF, where the representative said that they are pleased to announce that UNICEF, on behalf of the government of Nigeria, has procured 1.2 million vials of the tetanus diphtheria vaccine, which has arrived in Nigeria. This will be immediately dispatched to Kano, which is at the heart of this outbreak. Our collective aim is to safeguard Nigeria health and future of every child in Nigeria. Now, why this is a cause of concern, and I'll tell you real quick, is that yes, that the Kano is the epicenter. It doesn't also remove the fact that these animals are shipped down to every part of the country. So if you are looking at Kano, what about these animals that have been shipped down to other parts of Nigeria that are being consumed now by people? You're talking about children going back to school. Why is this not a cause for concern?
Let me also remind you that agriculture, matters like this are also on the concurrent list.
Okay.
And being on the concurrent list, it means that you can't leave it to the federal government alone. The states have major roles to play. Now, talking about the hides and the skin of some of these animals that we find as pomo, which is very popular now, a very popular delicacy in our meals. You will also agree with me that when this alarm, let me put it that way, when the nation was alerted to the spread of diphtheria, that the Ministry of Health actually made some announcements, and even NAFDAC also came up and said they are doing some investigations. The livestock department also said that people should be careful about the kind of pomo, let's put it that way, that they are consuming. So we got to a point where people even said that chemicals are being poured. You remember?
Yes,
people said chemicals are being poured on pomo,
to soften it.
And sometimes they said even paracetamol.
They use it in cooking to soften it.
Yeah, so all these narratives have been there on the drawing board. All these narratives have been there, and the public is being sensitized to being careful. But more is the fact that we also expect that our, what do they call them? Is it environmental officers? Or if not environmental officers, our vets, especially the veterinary doctors, for meat that is being slaughtered in our slaughters, that in our slaughter places, we expect that that these people should be alive to their responsibilities and make sure that there's no meat that is slaughtered, there's no meat that is consumed that is coming into the states without going through proper inspection. I think
God
that
help
is,
us.
yes, that is a key recommendation and a bottom line, that any meat that is coming into the state has to be properly inspected.
Okay, but now that becomes where the government steps in, the state governor step in. Like you said, it's a matter on the concurrent list, so it shouldn't just be about the federal government. All right. Okay, we hope that your team will get to seek out what the Ministry of Health in Rivers State is doing to also ensure that people here are informed in line with the good work you've been doing. We'll take a short break. When we come back, Garba Shehu is the Latin President Tinubu on pretenders around him and what to do about that. We'll have that conversation and more after the break.
Are you a broadcaster, content creator, content distributor, or media practitioner seeking opportunities to amplify your creativity and expand your network? Then join us at the 13th edition of Africast. Africast 2023 offers participants the opportunity to experience 3 days of world-class exposition through plenaries, streamings, master classes, and workshops showcasing the very best in creativity and technological advancements in the global broadcast and media ecosystem. Theme: broadcast content, synergy, finance, and market. Date: Tuesday the 24th of October to Thursday the 26th of October 2023. Venue: Marriott Hotel, Ikeja, Lagos, Nigeria. For more inquiries, visit www.africast.com.ng. NBC, your right to quality broadcasting.
Welcome back to ATN Blowout. Let's do the last batch of the lap of the show. We still have the State Director, National Orientation Agency, Barrister Ayotamno Young Life, in the studio, elucidating on national issues with us. Now, let's talk about Garba Shehu. The media aide to former President Muhammadu Buhari said that, like his principal, President Bola Tinubu will see through pretenders in his government. Shehu made this known in a statement released on Thursday titled 100 Days After Buhari. Shehu said Muhammad Buhari had done his part and left. History will judge him unfairly, I think. The statement reads, he goes to the farm 4 days of the week and is upbeat about how well the crops and his animals are now doing. He gets a good measure of rest, but the visits have not abated. To manage the numbers, he has a weekly program done for him, as they did while he was in the villa. There has not been a single area that had not been touched by the Buhari government. We have seen massive positive changes in the last 8 years. But as I say, the one who is pretending to be asleep is harder to wake up than one who is actually sleeping. Bullies who attacked government and something dropped will continue to antagonize Buhari, born of anger for lost opportunities. A certain Buhari critic, Garba said, who served a military governor in one of the northern states, even his underwear was bought from government coffers. When they came in, they freed thieves, robbers, and receivers of stolen goods and even gave them a working capital. Garba Shehu said within a few weeks, crime returned to Kaduna and yes, the other places, and he has the effrontery to speak as he did. This society has no use for such quality nonsense, he said. President Tinubu, a wise politician, will equally see through their masquerade. Mohammed has done his part and left. The history will judge him unfairly, I think. All right, what are we looking at here? Pretenders around the corridors of power. Isn't that common knowledge?
Well, I won't call them pretenders.
I'm using his word.
Yeah, I won't call them pretenders. Well, when you say pretenders, there's also the more pejorative term that some of them are sycophants.
Oh yeah.
But within the context, I will be one of the last persons to see Abubakar Dangiwa Umar as a pretender. These are people who cut, in fact, who left key. They left key landmarks in government. We are old enough to have seen Abubakar Umar as himself and the then Gongola State Governor, then old Gongola State Governor. These were people that were the conscience of the people as at that time when they were in government. He left his footprints, no doubts, in Kaduna State. In Kaduna State, even though I don't also agree with him to some extent, talking about Abubakar Umaru, because he had every opportunity to have spoken to the last president, looking at his place in government, looking at his place in the leadership of Nigeria, his past records. He also had the opportunity to have gone to the president to have made some recommendations, made some inputs. We don't have any record of that. That is not being put in place now. But at the same time, I take an exception to somebody calling him all kinds of names. Yes.
It's okay.
It's almost like people. If we continue to do that, then people do not have their freedom of expression. So we have to be careful in doing that. So well, two wrongs cannot make a right.
I agree.
Two wrongs definitely cannot make a right. Yes, but he has done his duty, whether you call him names or not. History, like Garuba Shehu said, will be the best judge.
All right.
We are saying things between the last administration and now.
All right, thank you very much. So the Diaspora Action for Democracy in Africa yesterday declared that the decision of the appeal court to uphold the results of the 2023 presidential election had disappointed many Nigerians. It said there were enough grounds for the court to have voided the outcome of the poll. That in a statement by Mr. Uche Martin noted that reports of alleged irregularities and non-conformity to the 2020 Electoral Act by the Independent National Electoral Commission were regrettable and deeply troubling. The body said available reports indicate that the court did not base its decision on points of law, but rather lends credence to widespread suspicion. According to the organization, this development has dashed the hope of millions of Nigerians who believed in the independence of the judiciary. It further noted that this is a watershed moment in the country's history, where the popular notion that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man appears more of a myth than reality. The group urged the Apex Court to restore the hope of Nigerians in the judiciary by dispensing justice fairly and without bias, guided by the Constitution and based on merit of the cases presented and not employing superfluous technicalities that undermine true justice. The decision of the PEPTO has deflated the morale of millions of Nigerians who cast their votes in the hope of obtaining the good governance the country desperately needs to emerge from the hardship and suffering the masses are experiencing. That we hope that the PEPTO judgment will be carefully reviewed and the Supreme Court and the Apex Court will be strong defenders of the Constitution and issue an objective and fair judgment without bias or favor based on the evidence presented before it. We also appeal to all Nigerians to remain calm but vigilant as active citizens. We have previously expressed concern at the limitations placed on the freedom of the press, freedom of citizens to peaceful protest and other human rights violations. The absence of these fundamental freedoms is signaling that democracy in Nigerian state is in regression, a situation which should never be allowed to fester or be perpetrated by any means. All right, because this conversation, trusting the Supreme Court of Nigeria and then believing, I like the way my producer pushed the picture of the Supreme Court of Nigeria right in front of everyone. Kudos to whoever took that shot, by the way. So now, imposing that picture just made me look back like, okay, judiciary, we are waiting. Are you going to do this or you're going to do what should be done, legally speaking, or otherwise? We really have no idea. But the hope that this diaspora group have in the Supreme Court, do you think most Nigerians share the same hope?
You know, in this same studio, we have always talked about the selective appreciation of judgments made by courts. When the judgments are in favor, the tendency is to hail such judgments as being right. And when the judgments are against, the tendency, as much as possible, is to put down those judgments and as much as is possible at other times to, in fact, virtually blackmail the judiciary. We have also mentioned here that cases are not won through the social media and that the judiciary will definitely make its pronouncement based on facts, that's evidence that is before it, and based on the law, and how the council, the various parties, are able to canvass their positions. For now, the beauty of it is that that is the first stage. That's at the Presidential Election Petitions Court. That is the first stage. That we have an appellate, which is the Supreme Court. And after the Supreme Court, lawyers will always tell you that then you can petition to God. So there is still a lot of hope. We must applaud and the resilience of Nigerians to maintain the peace, that we have continued to see so far. But there are also other aspects of it that need urgent. We need to look at our laws again, particularly our electoral laws. And one of the key things, recommendations that need to be made, is that we need to come to a point where either elections are moved backward, maybe to sometime around January or December, so that by the handover dates, all cases have been dispensed with. So a lot of issues are coming forward, but the beauty of it is that we still have another level for the council to the various parties to canvass their position.
All right.
And whatever the diasporans have said, we can't say they belong to one party or they belong to the other.
Yeah.
All of us are looking forward towards justice being done. And as of today, the justice has been done. That has been done is that the Presidential Election Petitions Court has ruled that Tinubu was elected.
All right. We'll have more of this conversation as all of this unfold. But there is a big story in the Nigerian news right now that unfortunately is painting the picture of the Nigerian state as a big crime scene. And all of this has to do with the death of 27-year-old Mohbad.
A celebrity.
Well, a human and in Nigeria.
A celebrity.
Well, what are some of these conversations? There's a whole lot of information in social space and even in the news media. And for me, it was beginning to wonder, where were we? How did all of this happen? How come we didn't take note? Well, let's start from the petition written by the late Nigerian artist Ilerioluwa Aloba, a.k.a. Mohbad, over an alleged threat to life by music promoter Samson Erin Folami Balogun, a.k.a. Sam Larry, and also on others has surfaced online. And this petition alleged that Sam Larry and 15 others stormed a video shoot where the deceased and another artist, Latan Ibile, were working armed and threatening to wreak havoc. They eventually did wreak havoc, destroying equipment worth over 5 million naira at the scene and assaulting the deceased, who narrowly escaped with injuries. The petition claimed it was also stated that Sam Larry claimed to be working for Oba Elegushi of Lagos State. "Sir, I called on your good office," Mohbad said, "to save my life from the above-mentioned persons and bring them to book." The petition continues to say that Mohbad was signed to Malian Records, owned by singer Naira Marley, a known associate of the said Sam Larry. He died on Tuesday, September 2nd. Well, this is a petition he sent to the Nigerian police force. The petition of threat to life, malicious damage of properties valued the sum of 5 million naira, assault, occasioning harm, oppression, and conduct likely to cause breach of peace against Sam Larry, Elegushi, Elele, Obele, and others, that I, of the above name and address, a law-abiding citizen and a musician, bring to your notice the assault and threat to my life by the above-mentioned persons. On 25th June 2023, while having a video shoot with another artist by names Latan Ibile, the above-mentioned persons, numbering about 15, led by Sam Larry Elegushi, invaded the premises with dangerous arms such as guns, cutlasses, etc., where I was shooting the video, and scattered the whole process of the shooting, damaged the equipment I was using for the shooting, valued about 5 million naira, and started threatening my life, which in the process they became violent and assaulted me, which I sustained injuries but narrowly escaped. Attached to this petition is the set pictures. Certain amount paid for the shooting they have destroyed is 8 million naira, which is non-refundable. However, during the assault, they were boasting that they work for Oba Elegushi and that they have been asked to deal with me for reasons best known to them, which till date they are still threatening to kill me if seen. Sir, I call on you, your good office, to save my life from the above-mentioned persons and bring them to book. Thank you for your timely intervention. This was June 2023. All of these incidents started about towards the end of about October last year. That's when it became public knowledge. There are videos where he clearly said, if anything happens to me, hold Naira Marley responsible, hold Sam Larry responsible, and all the pictures of the harm and the threats and the bullying that's been going on. How did we get to the point where a citizen of Nigeria, not just an unknown one, someone that is actually known, was going through all of this and nothing was even done to show that he should be protected? None of these culprits was even brought to book, or nothing was done. You know, in some cases, they were assigned undertaking and all of that. How did we get to this point?
First, let me say that I'm happy with your production team, because when I first read it on the online, when I first read it online, one of the contentious issues on my mind was whether this letter was just a fluke that somebody had. But now you can see that there's a stamp there.
Yes.
The office of the Assistant Inspector General of Police,
Lagos, yes.
And that it was actually received about that period, 1st June.
Yes.
If I'm right.
Yes.
About that period, that was when the 11th of 1st June, that was when the letter was written and it was received.
Yes.
So 21st June, over 60 days, in fact, over 70 days, had to lapse before the death of this young man. And currently, we are being made to understand that the police is investigating the matter. In fact, there are material facts that he had put in that petition.
There are several videos. Barry said there are several videos. I didn't, when I left after the news last night, when the producer sent this story as well, we're discussing today, I had not really had the courage to go to, look into all of this, because I just felt like this would mess me up. But I was awake till about 2 a.m. I was watching all the videos. There's so many information, the wounds, the injuries, they're all there.
Yeah, so
in most cases, the police were tagged in all of those things he was putting out.
Yeah, so if a young man like that, that is also, whether we like it or not, is a useful young man that is also contributing to our economy. You know, he was an artist. He also had a team, a crew that was also working with him. And in the petition, you will see that he even mentioned the people clearly that came after him at a shooting area where he was trying to make film or whatever.
Video,
yes. Yeah. And then he had also tried to link the connection of one of them, I think Sam Larry also, who came with some, call them thugs, call them whatever, to that shooting venue, destroyed his property, not just his life, after beating them up, destroyed property and so on. I think the response from the police is not as quick as one will expect. If there was anything that was missing in that report, if there's anything that was missing, the police would have been exonerated. But in this particular instance, the fact that the police did not investigate it until these things happened, we need to be more proactive. We need to be more proactive in our response.
Let's even listen to the Nigerian police now that he's dead. So the Nigerian police force has assured of diligent investigation into the passing of Ilerioluwa Oladumeji Aloba, also known as Mohbad. In a statement shared on X, it said it was completed. The comprehensive investigation to unravel the circumstances surrounding the death of the singer. The statement said, we extend our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and fans of late Ilerioluwa Oladumeji Aloba, known as Mohbad, who tragically passed away recently. We understand the concerns surrounding his untimely demise and the various speculation that have arisen. The Nigerian police is committed to comprehensive investigation into this matter, as the Lagos State Commissioner of Police has been tasked to unravel the circumstances surrounding his death. Rest assured, Updates will be provided as investigation unfolds. We encourage family members or close associates with valuable information to approach the Lagos. Right, I want to stop here. I'm on air. I don't want to get emotional more than I am already. First and foremost, what is Nigerian police talking about now? Since last year, like I said, I was shocked. All of this information, go to his wall on Twitter. All of his fans were sharing and tagging the Nigerian police. Benjamin Hondeye, for instance, is one person that is quick to always respond. Even the first PRO, Muyiwa, is quick to respond. Yeah, this young man had a big show abroad in a month's time. Yes. This young man has a 4-month-old baby. They just got married not too long ago. And he has a family, of course. And of course, he is an entertainer that's been a blessing to several Nigerians, if you may. Now, you're just telling us that after he's been, I mean, it's even funny, Barrister Ayo, because as we speak, he was buried, I think, about 24 hours after he passed. Now, with all of these allegations surrounding this young man, you have a situation where severally Naira Marley comes in some of those videos and says, oh, he was intoxicated. The guy said he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. I don't know how true that is, but that's by the way. Now, no autopsy was carried out. This guy has been buried. And now the police is coming out after he's been buried to say, help us understand what investigation we are talking about here.
Well, I wouldn't, even if he has been buried, it could also be exhumed.
Yeah, but couldn't they have stopped having all of the information they have at their disposal since last year, even with the petition that was done in June this year? Couldn't the Nigerian police have looked back and say, hey, we need to step in at the point his death was announced, considering that from ear infection, his wife, his friends are coming out to say he didn't have an ear infection, and all of that, stop this barrier and ensure that proper investigation goes on.
Have you also noticed, well, let me not use a question to answer a question, but I've mentioned here, I said the police need to be more proactive. Whatever has happened here may not be too different from what has happened just at our backyard here. The way you have intelligence and you are not working on that intelligence to save the lives of citizens, law-abiding citizens. For me, he has very well attempted to satisfy all requirements of law. By that petition, it is expected that the police will immediately swing into action towards making sure that this crime was nipped in the bud. But nothing of that nature was done until life was taken out of that young man. Already he is late, he has died, and he has been buried. So it's not somebody that whatever the police will do, perhaps it might deter some such occurrence in future, but you can't bring him back. And it also brings to the issue, I also read somewhere where the royal family.
Yeah, that's where we're going to right family, now.
You know, tried to distance itself from those that are parading the emblem,
using the royal family.
Using the royal family.
Okay, let me quickly bring that story right now. So, amid the controversy that's surrounding the death of singer Ileroluwa Oladimeji Aloba, a.k.a. Mohbad, the Lagos royal family of Etiosa local government Lagos State has distanced their family from the embattled music promoter Samson Balogun, popularly known as Sam Larry. The Elegushi family made their stance known in a statement released Thursday by the palace, in which the royal family denounced any involvement with the music promoter. The statement said that the Elegushi royal family of Etiosa wishes to put on record the misinformation on the media space involving Samson Folami Balogun, aka Sam Larry. Samson Balogun is not a member of the royal family and does not work for the royal family or king in any capacity. Like other celebrities, politicians, royals, and community leaders, he visits the palace to pay homage to the king and seek royal blessing, just like other members of the public, while expressing our condolences to the family and friends of late Ileroluwa Aloba. That's Mohbad. We would like to add our voices to the call for a thorough investigation into circumstances surrounding his death. With a view to unravel any foul play, we ask our friends in the media to be mindful of the sensitivity of the issue and desist from spreading falsehood and that may jeopardize the investigation. Interesting enough, this king has been seen with Sam Larry on more than one occasion, several events. Interesting enough that when the hoodlums who came with Sam Larry to harass and assault Mohbad and his team during the music video shooting, they were claiming that they were sent from about Legoshi. And now that this has happened, we never heard anything. When the social media conversations was going on about all of these assaults and the video were everywhere, we never heard anything. We never heard the royal family come out to distance themselves from Sam Larry. Now that the young man is dead, the petition is flying around, they're coming out to distance themselves. Is this a call for some form of sanity amongst the royal, the palace or the royal fathers, if you may, considering how ugly this is beginning to look? I mean, why would the name of the palace be mentioned that they were authorized to come and harass Mohbad?
Mohbad. I think I was just looking at the name, what it could mean, and how Yorubas
would like to pronounce it.
Would like to pronounce it. Mohbad. Looking at the story and the involvement of the royal family, let's take it from the perspective of the royal family. They have said they didn't outrightly disown Sam Larry. They said, like every other citizen, that visits the palace, that Larry comes around and he's seen around the palace, and he comes to pay homage to the traditional ruler. But it also raises a lot of concern. It also shows that our institutions, that what is happening to our institutions generally, that even the royals are not exempted from it. You will see that rather than being strengthened, there appears to be a weakness across board, amongst our royal institutions. That's cutting across the entire country. Just what happened at our backyard here, just behind us, not too far from us, Ahoda East. We also see that the royals are also implicated somehow in the matter until they are able to get themselves free from the fact that we are told that what's his name, something Baba, two Baba or whatever.
Yeah,
yes,
the suspected kingpin,
and his boys were operating in that community, and that the traditional institution in that community was aware. There's no way you say you're a traditional ruler and then people are operating, criminal gangs are operating in your community, and you say you are not aware of it. But be that as it may, like I had stated, you can see a weakness in our traditional institutions. These are institutions that prior to this time are very conservative in terms of keeping the values, not only the customary values, but also trying to keep the national values that we have in the country. But
Correct.
Now being allowed to tolerate all kinds of characters around them, and virtually being also brought into matters like this, as having knowledge and having given the platform for such persons to leverage upon.
All right, so from insurgency in the northeast Nigeria to all kinds of crime being committed around the southern part of the country and what have you. If you look at in this week alone, from the death of DPO Bako Angbashim, and of course you go to Abia State yesterday, there's a similar beheading of a political party and a union leader of a community, and then bring that back to the death of Mohbad and the involvement of traditionals. So kudos to the River State governor, who was prompt enough to suspend the traditional institution, as a warning that he's not joking about all of this. If you look at this and the rate of crime rates across Nigeria, we are wondering, if you may, Is Nigeria one big crime scene, or are we just pretending that nothing is going on? Should we be worried?
We have to be worried. We have to be worried. If you're not worried, even if you have to mirror it to yourself, in fact, and also narrow it to yourself. How safe are you if you are not worried about these situations that we see? But again, I will say that while we are being worried, we should also be hopeful that together we can make our country work again. What we are seeing today is the fact that crime appears to be fighting back. We have just finished elections. New governments are in place now, both at the federal and in most of the states. And you notice that the economy itself, is biting, and people are doing all kinds of things to particularly more. The ones that we are seeing are the very illegal ones. I know that there are people that are trying to make legitimate means of ensuring that ends are actually met. So we have to encourage our security agencies. Everybody has to work, encourage them to be more proactive, and also provide credible intelligence for them, actionable intelligence for them. And, and we also expect that in providing actionable intelligence for them, that they're able to manage it. They are able to manage it and not use it or release it to the detriment of those that have provided such actionable intelligence.
All right. Thank you so much, Barrister Ayatamina Young. It's always an honor to have you blow out or dissect national issues with us on the show on ATN. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
And that's been our show, everyone. Now, if you missed a part of the conversation, not to worry. The show was streamed live on all our platforms. All you need to do is log on to Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, and you get all the details of the show. And we look forward to hearing from you. Do you think Nigeria is one big crime scene, or are we just pretending that all is well? I'd like to know your take on all of this, especially on the issue of the passing of Mohbad. Also pray that his soul will rest in peace. Also follow us. You can watch us live on all the platforms, including our Facebook and YouTube page, like I said, Atlantic Television Network, both platforms. And watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. And you can also watch us live from our app, ATN Live, from the App Store. You can download that. Looking for that, do well to follow us on other platforms on Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. And on X, we're Atlantic TV Net. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathway to progress. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.